What's up and welcome back? I'm John Stark from Macfadyen.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today we're going to jump into Holland, previously known as Holland MI or Holland, Michigan. This movie has been on the uh, sort of the watch list for awards potential for anybody who follows any of the awards apps that allow you to do that for the last two seasons. It was listed in 2024 and 2023 as having potential because of Nicole Kidman. I think they just track it and they go, "Oh yeah, I could get it. That could sneak in there." Um, well, it's out now, and it's on Amazon. They just kind of made it an Amazon release after all these years. So, a March Amazon release, basically at almost the exact same time that they're dropping The Fire Inside on Amazon. So, yeah, not necessarily feels kind of like they're burying it, but that's debatable. Click like and subscribe so we can get into Nicole Kidman's latest film. So, in this film, obviously, which takes place in Holland, Michigan, which I've been to. I went there as a kid. It's a very nice place. It's very like a touristy trap type place where there's lots of things to do that are all related around the concept of Holland. Like they do have a windmill and tulips, and you can go to those sort of kitschy shops where you can get things like the wooden shoes. And I mean they embrace the name, you know. So Nicole Kidman is a housewife that's living this sort of idyllic life in Holland with her husband, played by Macfadyen, is an optometrist, and they seem to be when it starts, it kind of has a little bit of this like I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, Stepford Wives type vibe to it, where everything is perfect, the world is perfect, and we're living in some sort of alternate reality, sort of like that shine of the 50s and 60s with the white picket fences, that kind of thing, and the smiling wife who is uh, not a strong female lead by any any stretch of the imagination. That changes wildly throughout the course of the movie because I think this movie has gone through probably different drafts on the screenplay. It's probably gone through different edits and cuts, possibly even reshoots. But it feels like a movie that has been uh, just one of those like too many cooks in the kitchen, because it tonally and structurally no longer cohesively works as a film. Um, as Nicole sort of moves forward, uh, she starts suspecting her husband. Her husband goes away on a trip, and pretty instantaneously she suspects him of having an affair. The problem with that is that they don't really establish them very well as a couple before that. So it just kind of feels like that the film wants to get to a plot quicker than it wants to get through character development. They have a son, Henry, played by Jude Hill, the kid from Belfast, who is obviously a very capable young actor, but he's not really used that much. If anything, this is one of the reasons why I think the film has been chopped to death, because his character kind of comes in strong in the beginning, and gives his mom a little bit of stress, and they have a little bit of fight, and he calls the dad and is like, "Ugh, mom's being mean," like that kind of thing. And then the dad gets to go, "Oh, is it? Well, come on, don't say anything you're gonna regret." And it has this very like, that's what I'm saying, like it has this very like Dick Van Dyke feel to it, like My Three Sons or whatever. It has this he's like the perfect father and the perfect wife, and the kid who's struggling with being 13, and as he says when he turns away from that conversation, he's like, he's so my son's 13, everything's an emergency now. you know. Um Totally, the film works in the beginning for like a few minutes, and then it kind of veers, because we didn't really get to have that um happy home life set up for Nicole and Matthew. It just kind of immediately devolves into, well, my husband's not here and he's away at a meeting. Oh my God, he must be having an affair. Or he ended up going somewhere that he didn't tell me he was going. He went somewhere else instead. It's the wrong city. Oh my God, there must be, ah, my life is over. Meanwhile, like, we don't know whether or not Matthew is, the movie will go. Just, I can't talk about the whole movie, but uh, meanwhile, Nicole has this relationship with another town's person, another. I don't know. I don't. I wish he wasn't even in the movie. I love Garcia Bernal, but his character is so oddly used to where I to try to describe his character. He just he's like a friend, and then he's like like pining after Kidman, and then they're lovers, and then it's just like his character direction seems to be whatever Nicole needs him to be in that moment, and it just kind of like moves through the film, and he has a lot of weird interactions, but he's also not really well established as a character. That seems to be a recurring theme, is that people are just sort of whatever the plot needs them to be instead of actually being strong characters. Nicole will change a lot too as the movie moves on, despite the fact that she's actually moving the narrative. Um, and it kind of devolves into this is my husband cheating movie, uh, and trying to figure out what's going on with Matthew Macfadyen, which, to give it credit, uh, you know, once you pull at a thread, sometimes the whole thing unravels. So, yeah, there's something here in terms of um, finding out what Matthew's been doing that is interesting. Like, I wasn't totally bored by the movie, but I was constantly confounded by it. I was constantly like, what? Why did we do that? Where did we make that choice? Where's Jude Hill? Like, I just there were so many times I was just like, I don't know. And then they'd introduce other characters. They introduced this sort of like lush of a bus driver, but I don't know why. I mean, it's mostly a distraction. They don't really do anything with the character. They point him out and they're like, oh, that's so and so. I can't remember what his name was, like Squeak or something like that. And uh, I mean, he's barely used in the movie. It just feels like, why even bother? Like, he has no relevance to anything, and they do like two scenes with him and then they move on. He doesn't do or serve a purpose. So I don't know. And Nicole Kidman seems to have no friends, which is another thing that I just she just has no. I guess there are no other. This feels like it also has that sort of like "Don't worry, darling" vibe to it, where everything is idyllic, but everything is also wrong at the same time. But even in that movie, like, there were other neighbors. I think that's where this movie would have felt stronger from. Would have been Nicole Kidman seems to understand that Holland is based around this idea of community and the Tulip Festival and all those kind of things, like, and putting on a smile, and getting through. She's worried about what other people think of the town, but she doesn't really ever get to interact with anybody else in the town. She doesn't really have the kind of group of friends around her that you would see in a movie like this, where she normally would have like a neighbor that would be a friend or something. She kind of just has Gael Garcia Bernal, and that's it. and his character is just whatever she needs him, whatever she needs him to be in that moment. She has these weird dreams too, and actually so does he, which doesn't really make any sense why people are having weird dreams and why we're not watching Matthew Macfadyen have weird dreams as a lead, and why Nicole and Gael are the only ones that are having weird nightmares. I get why we follow Nicole because it's her story, but then when we jump over to Gael and he has a nightmare too, I'm just like, I don't know why none of this makes any sense. There's so many choices here that I'm so interested in. I think people, they love listening to directors' commentaries on excellent movies. They want to hear how Scorsese came to that shot in Goodfellas, right? But because it's interesting, sometimes there's an interesting story behind your favorite scene. I get that. But also at the same time, I really want to hear like directors' commentaries on movies that you're just like, why? Why? Why are you doing that? Like, what is the choice here? It's bizarre. It does have fantastic audio description though, because right from the get go, Nicole's initial description I thought was delicious. She's described very well right in the beginning, and then all the way through, there are ample opportunities to describe very well. I would say her nightmare sequence is just fantastic, very well described. Um, there's a scene with Gael where he's trying to get the perfect shot in a house, and that's well described because it's also it involves some sneaking. It involves being able to see something through a reflection in a mirror and not actually being present in a room, and dogs and a dog opening a door instead of him opening the door. So I mean, like, things happen because of like really specific choices, uh, and the audio description seems to understand every single little choice. There's sleeping in a car and waking up to fogged windows. I mean, like, every little visual choice that seems to be made in this film, that is at all relevant to the plot. Not necessarily like every single item of clothing that everybody is wearing, but every single possibly plot relevant visual choice is actually brought up in this movie. Uh, so I think that's what I liked about it. But as far as structure, man, I mean, it's a weird film. You should watch it. We need to watch more movies that are taking bold risks and trying to be original and do things differently, because we get a lot of just sort of cookie cutter movies that feel like a movie you just saw 3 months ago, you know? But in Holland, at least, Don't Worry Darling is the closest, most recent comp that I can come up with. But even that, plot wise, they're two totally different movies. I mean, I really don't know what else is like Holland, in terms of, because it really feels like it's a whole bunch of different attempts at the same movie that somehow just malleated into this final product, and this is what we get. So Holland was never going to be nominated for an Academy Award. um, I think that's why it was kind of sitting around for a while, and I didn't really know what to do with it. I'm starting to notice that if a film is on a list for too long, part of the reason it's on the list for too long is largely because it's really not an awards contender, like The Supremes, that Earl's All You Can Eat, or Spaceman, which both were trending on awards lists long before they were ever released, turn out to not be remotely strong contenders for any awards. This is that same thing. This is the same thing. This is a film that people looked at and they were like, oh, well, cast alone, right? I mean, we've got Academy Award winner Nicole Kidman. We've got Emmy Award winner Matthew Macfadyen. Duh. No. No, no duh. There's no duh here. Um, but I mean, it would be nice. It would have been nice to see something. Gael Garcia Bernal is somebody who I would root for, especially out of this cast. I think Matthew, he's still making the transition, using his Succession clout to get him the kind of film roles that will lead eventually to a nomination. And we did just get two of the Succession boys nominated last year. I don't need Matthew to have a nomination, but Kyle has been in the industry for a long time, churning out excellent performances. It would have been really nice for him to have something meaty enough to be able to get into the conversation. So I'm always looking for something for him. Like he's somebody who interests me as an actor, seeing something that might um, get him into the conversation. Sadly, it will not be this movie. Holland, Michigan is, well, the original title for this movie, Holland, is a little bit of a mess. A little bit of a, in- but it is intriguing. It's not boring. That's the thing I've said about a couple movies actually already is I'd rather watch an interesting bad movie that keeps me sort of engaged in the awfulness of it than I would watch a movie that's just bad and is also boring. Like that, I think that's a worse sin. I think I I said this for something else already in 2025, which is not a good sign. But I can't remember what it was. I'd rather have a Megalopolis. I'd rather have a Joker Fall Due. I'd rather have a Here than I would have Night Swim or Tarot or Stream of Consciousness or The Painter or, like just films that are bad and boring. I think that's a worse sin than just being weird and bad or very off kilter and making radical choices that are just, they don't work, but at least somebody's trying to do something. I feel like Holland has that to it where at least it's not, I wasn't bored. It's not good, but I wasn't bored. I was kind of just the whole movie just like, what? Why would you? What? I don't under. So I'm gonna give Holland. I'm gonna give it a C minus. I think the acting kind of comes through, but man, they're having a hard time. I don't hold anything against the actors here because their characters are so oddly written and structured from one moment to another. You know what I will blame them for? Reading a script. Read the script. Was it like this before, or did it go through 18 rewrites? Because if this was a first draft and the only draft, then I blame you. However, if they just sat in the production and that screenwriter was having to constantly make changes and edits and cuts, which is kind of what it feels like, that no, it's not your fault and you were already signed on to the project and I guess couldn't drop out of it and run away. And you feel like everybody kind of did their best to commit to the role that they were given and make it work, make it happen. So it's commendable. But no, this is not a great movie. Um, Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.